Thank you very much, John. Good afternoon. I am very, very pleased today to be able to announce some extremely exciting news for the University of Louisville. I'm pleased to announce that after a national search, our Board of Trustees this morning unanimously approved Vincent Tyra as our Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics and Athletic Director. The search firm of Korn Ferry took part in this important search and initially identified 50 candidates as part of a national search. Some of them were current athletic directors in Power 5 conference schools. Some were from non-Power 5 but nevertheless prominent universities, and others were simply individuals who had expressed interest in inquiring about the position. We wanted someone who had proven, relevant experience and a track record of success. In consultation with Korn Ferry, we narrowed down the list to a much smaller number and had conversations with those candidates. These were candid conversations which acknowledged not only the challenges of the university, but the tremendous opportunities here for the future. Clearly, we were looking for a best fit. At the end of the day, Vince Tyra emerged as the strongest candidate, the best fit for U of L. Let me give you a few reasons. We got to know Vince even before he was in this interim position, as he served meritoriously on our University of Louisville Foundation Board and there helped us tackle some difficult financial issues facing the foundation. Over the past 6 months, he has been in a job where he's had a chance to already prove himself and his ability as an athletic director. He has dealt with challenging staffing issues, he has improved efficiency of the athletic department, and he has tackled the budget during a time of university-wide financial constraint. He has already built strong relationships. He works well with the coaches and the athletic staff. He has redone key contracts. He has made great progress in our men's head basketball coach search. And in private conversations, the staff in the athletic department have been effusive in their praise of him and their ability to work with him. He has met with and earned the respect already of ACC officials, NCAA officials, and other athletic directors throughout the United States. The ACC has already asked him to share his thoughts on some of the programs that we are implementing here. AD colleagues in the ACC and around the country are unanimous in their praise for Vince. He's been open and honest with the media. He has been nothing less than terrific working with me and the administration of the university and its Board of Trustees. And every bit as important, he has continued to work hard to earn the trust and respect of the fan base through personal meetings with donors, fans, alumni, and others. A couple of notable quotes. Oliver Luck, who we reached out to yesterday, is in charge of regulatory functions at the NCAA. Oliver said, "This is great news. Vince has done a remarkable job under the most difficult of circumstances. He is a former student athlete with outstanding business experience, and the athletics department in Louisville is in exceptional hands with him." Jed Hughes, principal consultant for Korn Ferry, our search consultant, noted that we believe Vince embodies the DNA of Louisville, and his legacy with various constituents will provide credibility and allow him to be extremely successful in this new role. To put it simply, he has proven to be a perfect fit for U of L. We look forward to working with him now and in the future, and I cannot tell you how pleased I am to be able to share this great news with you today. I introduce to all of you our new athletics director, Vincent Tyra.
Thank you. Those are very kind words from yourself and others. I really appreciate that. Sorry about the delay this morning. My family and I have been sitting back in the green room waiting like an NFL draft, so we've enjoyed our time together here, getting to know what's going on in their lives over the weekend while I've been attending the women's basketball game. So I know this isn't about the women's Final Four or how well our men's team did in the swimming over the weekend in the NCAA, but I'm certainly very happy to be here, and I can't tell you how proud and excited I am to be named the Director of Athletics at the University of Louisville. It's as I've said before in previous press conferences, we were raised as Cardinals, and we're U of L fans our whole childhood, my siblings and so forth, and couldn't be happier to try to lead this process for the university. It really came at a perfect time for me in my life, where I was personally and where I was professionally, that the opportunity was here, and I was happy to jump in and help, not knowing how long it would be. I'm certainly now in my third title in 6 months, but in the same role. And happy that we've been able to make a lot of progress, and people have adapted well to my leadership and the direction we're going. So, one, can't go without thanking the board and the administration for having confidence in me to take over this role. I understand there's a process, and understand from the very get-go that my interest was what was best for the university, whether it be myself or someone else. But selfishly, I'm glad it was me. You know, my staff in the athletic department was warm and receptive from day one. You know, I was very candid, very frank and candid with the staff on how things were viewed and how we were going to act and things we were going to do, and just how culture has been for me as a leader in different organizations and how it would be in this organization. And I can't tell you how receptive they've been and supportive they've been to date. The coaches, student athletes, the staff that support all our success have been highly responsive. I've certainly gotten involved with each and every one of them. It's nice to get their texts today and hear what they have to say about this situation and how they want to grow together. I'm looking forward to doing that with all of them. John Swafford, the ACC staff, the member ADs and the ACC and outside the ACC have been outstanding. You know, my network grew very quickly in the first, you know, call it 60 days here, and it continues to expand. It's expanded greatly in the last few weeks. You know, while tournaments are growing, you get to meet more people, you hear from more people, and really appreciate their support and guidance, because coming into this role, I'm clear on what my strengths are and what I added to this position where I could add value. And I know that while people are not as clear on what my background has been in athletics and dealing with Nike and Adidas and Russell Athletic and many of those through my career, there's been others that have stepped forward to help me understand how that works in this particular environment versus the environment I was in before, and I'm very thankful of that. So the fans, I mean, I can't tell you how supportive they've been. I know there's certainly ones out there have their view on things, but for the most part, they've been terrific. As I go through the different venues and have spoken to a variety of fans at different places, venues, chalk talks before games, going to Central Cardinal Club and speaking in this building and other places, they've been supportive, and I've been straight with them. So they've asked me a variety of questions, and I try to answer them. But you know, the bulk of the fans, you know, probably didn't know who I was, what I represent, what I'm all about, or what value I bring to this. They just see frankly, a business guy come to this position and wonder where things are going to go from where we were, because we have something very terrific here. But in time, I think that it'll work to our benefit. I'm comfortable with that. You know, I challenged our fans from day one to dig in and really step up harder in support. And while there have certainly been a few, as I say, they're small and they're loud, who have stepped to the side, they've been replaced by very supportive voices, and certainly on the donor front, they've dug in as well. I think you hear about a variety of things on the academics versus athletics side. I'm pretty comfortable where we are today. I know we have our work cut out, but I think they'll be there. And to the fans, I mean, we can't do this without you. They may be divided on some individual issues, but I assure you that they're united on their love of our sports programs and this university. And in the end, as I think about these situations, I always feel the grass will kill the weeds anyways. It works in reverse in business. If you create the right culture, the grass will kill the weeds. So those that are there, they won't be a part of what we want to accomplish successfully going forward. We'll have more grass in the future. My family who's here today, and some that aren't here today, my brothers, sisters, my mother, and certainly my father, who certainly couldn't be here today. I'm so thankful for them and their support. They've been terrific through all this. They've had to develop thick skin with me as a part of this role, because you know, we went from a very private life, living in a very private setting, to a very open life, and it's been a change of pace for them, and they've been outstanding, supporting our teams, our coaches. As I say, Lori's a hugger, so she quickly got to get friendly and know everybody here, so forth. I have to warn her about, you know, university guidelines around hugging, but you know, we've enjoyed it. I mean, that's the thing, is I can say I've really had a lot of fun. Even in these circumstances, I've had more fun than I probably even anticipated, and my love of sports has been drawn out in every which way. So outside of that, even my family here at U of L, I mean, certainly I've been, as you guys know, close to this program, and whether it's talking to a Chris Redmond or a Dave Ragone or Brad Faulkner, Eric Wood this morning, the text I've got, Luke Hancock, all the Wiley Brown and so on, Junior Bridgman, talking to Junior last week, just all the different ones in the community are, I'm very fortunate to be around a lot of these guys, and they've been great supporters and will be going forward. So, you know, as I always say, like, when I grew up here, Wade Houston and my mom were like, we're best of buddies, probably closer than my dad and Wade. It was an interesting thing, and always enjoyed their family and Alan. And while I had the opportunity to have my office based in Greenwich, Connecticut, where Alan lives, we get to see each other up there. I go to a Knicks game and look forward to having his voice as we go forward here too. So U of L is in our family's DNA through and through, and it will continue to be so. I think as long as I can keep my crew out of the press and all that, and keep them happy and maintain some sensibility of our private life, that would be great. As it relates to where we are and kind of moving forward, you know, I'm very fortunate. I've inherited a great stable of coaches, athletes, facilities. I mean, Tom has left us in a great position, without a doubt. Being in the ACC, I've said that, you know, very thankful to be where we are today and what we have in front of us to work with, and it certainly made that part of the job much easier, that I'm not thinking about, boy, where we have a deficit in the head coaching spot. We've been able to fill a couple spots, and we have a big one that we're going to add to our collection of that in the near term. But our success here in athletics breeds success, and you know, across the campus. The pride in this campus comes out as athletics is succeeding, and our alumni have an attachment here to athletics, and I hear it everywhere I go. Even as I'm speaking at alumni groups, I hear about their passion for the university, and I've received numerous letters in support of that. Those letters are from former alumni, not former student athletes who are alumni. They're just straight up professors and students that were here, and they're attached here, and I love reading those letters. And I won't deny, I get a few of the others questioning every move. I've said it before, we're not going to be unanimous on every decision I make here. I'm clear on that. But I'm doing the best I can explaining my justifications on every decision I make, whether it regards to personnel or direction, marketing, financial, etc., and making that clear to everyone. But we have a legacy of tremendous success on and off the field. Our academic success is terrific. We really support these kids, and it's been invaluable as I've jumped in, because I know how much I appreciated having a tutor system. When you play baseball, and we played 70-some games in the spring, I relied on that with where I was going. It's hard to miss about a dozen statistics classes and still stay in touch and make the grades, and I'm as highly supportive of that as I can for the kids. So with what I'm trying to do here, though, there's still noise out there. I get that, and we're going to solve some of that today. We're going to solve some of that this week. But I'm focused on what I can control and what our staff can control, and that's where we've been. We haven't really stopped to get into the naysaying, wasting a lot of energy, or worrying about a lot of stuff. We just stay focused on what we can control and make the best decisions we can, and I believe it's worked out well, or I wouldn't be here today. The team in the athletic department with me, as I mentioned, worked extremely hard. We've made a number of improvements in the short term, and we've used the student-athlete experience as our guiding principle. And that's shaped a lot of things. Certainly, I think it's helped us when we talked about extending coaches' contracts, which we've done. I think as we think about things like giving a competitive schedule, as we've announced some football scheduling coming up, I think bringing on the national champion, air quotes, around Central Florida, adding them to the schedule, I think is exciting for our fans, and doing a home and home with them. We're continuing to produce individual and team success. I mean, I'm excited to get to go to Columbus this weekend with the women's team. There's other things going on. The women's swim team, we've got another national championship out of Mallory, which is exciting to celebrate. We had great individual performances in those. So along with the team side of it, baseball's kicking into full gear, and you guys know how I feel about baseball. But it's all good stuff. And on the flip side of the facilities, we're going to knock out a stadium expansion of the football that it's on pace. It looks terrific. Done the walkthroughs. It's really going to be a cool venue that I think people are going to appreciate how that plays into our fan experience. So we're making some tweaks, I think, that'll be positive to that, related to fans, just like we bid with our floor seat holders, allowing them to have a new entry to get in and off the floor as they come to games. So we'll get that done. Most of the media here would appreciate our ACC Network broadcast studio that's going in place over on Arthur Street. We're going to be doing quite a bit out of that rather than trying to have Jeremy and his team run around in a truck on campus and pulling cable and everything else. That's going to be very valuable to us. You can look at the budget differences between SEC and ACC schools and see that there's a significant difference in media revenue, and we're going to need it. I think that's going to be valuable to us as we think about taking on our current facilities and renovating them, enhancing them. They were built some time ago, so we have them, but they need work. And we got to clean some things up there while we consider other new facilities down the road, which I believe will be a part of our future. Organizational improvements, everybody's clear on what we've done organizationally. Continuing to make sure we have great adherence to Title IX. Developing our staff professionally. We've been trying to do a number of things there to get that going. We want to build succession in all these positions, which is healthy in any environment. And then certainly as my role, I've been very engaging with the academic side of this campus. I've presented at a number of meetings. I've spoke at leadership classes. We try to find out what the staff and faculty want to get accomplished here, how we can be valuable. I meet with the Student Senate. I've certainly met with the SGA, with Vishnu and Sarah. We worked to a good resolution as we most recently announced cutting the athletic fee in half. At some point we'd like to see whether we can make that all go away. I don't want to get too far in front of myself, but I think that's important. But we've engaged with every audience that deals with athletics, and will continue to. But I think as it relates to what's going on, I speak for myself, and I was certainly happy to hear Greg talk about the voice of our athletic department. We're having fun. I mean, I think morale's up. We're having a terrific time. There's good support in the room that would represent that, and we come to work and are very focused and knock things down with agendas and issues, and it's good to celebrate those accomplishments, and we'll continue to going forward. But I think in terms of, you think about near-term goals and long-term goals of the department, running a clean program certainly has cultural aspects to it. Who you hire and who you recruit will step in and help solve some of the issues we might have. Things are going to happen along the way. Your knowledge of that, how you deal with that, is important, and I feel like I've exhibited that my interest in resolving issues as soon as we hear of anything, whether it be a student conduct issue or any issues going on in any of our staff, whether they be coaching or whether they be in the athletic department. Academic excellence, we're going to continue to exclamation point that. We're a leader in that regard. You hear about all these, each of these sports doing extremely well, and we'll continue to, and we're going to provide those resources for them to do well. Tutors, and particularly I want to move more into the career guidance, because I speak about when my father was done, and when I was done, I always tell the student athletes, it ends abruptly. Whether it's a season or your career, when it's over, we don't win national championships every year, so that career is over abruptly, and you need to be prepared for what's next. So we talk about that, and I speak to the kids personally on that about career advancement, because sometimes it's tough and you lose your identity when you're running around in all this Adidas gear and everybody knows you on campus, all of a sudden you're walking through Oxmoor Mall and nobody knows who you are and they're not cheering for you anymore. So it's us to help foster their careers when they're done here, and I think that's as important as making sure they make a 3.0. I mentioned earlier about some of the professional development of those kids. We'll do that also in our staff. And then, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, we're still going to compete. Our expectations haven't changed. Conference championships, national championships are still in our scope. And we've got the ability to do that. We have a number of our sports that are ranked in the top 10 and are going to compete, and we're going to do it this weekend and hope to pull one home. So that hasn't changed. Our expectations of where we're going to finish in each of these sports hasn't changed. But I think the other thing that's intriguing as we think about what's going on in the overall campus financially is, it's one of our goals to be financially self-sustained. And I think as we think about where we are and how we do that over the coming years and really get this ACC network, is to think about where we can work well with the university and the academic side to try to get there. We all hear about budget cuts from Frankfurt, and we're trying to think about how we manage our budget and our needs and our wants and so forth, and while it's still achieving success. So there's certainly not drastic wholesale cuts coming here, if that's what you're thinking. It's just being responsible about what we have with that $100+ million budget and how we grow that. How we grow that going forward, how we really partner up with our donors and take this thing to another level, because it hasn't stopped growing since my father's been here, and it will continue long after I've stepped away. So I think is these student athletes, the thing you want is them to have a great experience here, and I think that's where we want to have a legacy of these kids in all sports, that they love this place. They get here, they feel it, and when they accomplish when they leave, when Maisha Hines' career ends, whenever it is, hopefully next Sunday night with a championship, they want to leave here feeling like they had a great experience, that all 4 of these years they were here, it was terrific, and in some cases maybe shorter if they leave earlier for NBA and those kind of things. But I think we want them to have a great experience. We want our employees to be proud. We want everybody to continue to have fun and be proud. I want them to wear that Nike gear in the community when they're in restaurants. Be proud of what we have here. It is something to be proud of. We're so close to it, we're hypersensitive about what's really going on in our community with the university. I'm pretty proud of what we've accomplished in the many years leading up to some of our issues. I'm very proud of where we are today and going forward, and I feel it and I sense it in there. So, the fans, I would say if we do our work right, they feel guilty for not showing up. We need to give customer service like we've never done before, thinking about all those aspects, whether they be the season ticket holder or the highest donor. I think that we try to come up and think with ideas, and that's the way I present it to our staff. Is I want them to feel guilty for not showing up at these games, supporting these kids. We show them where our resources go, and certainly the output of their grades and their accomplishments and so forth. But to be there and cheer, you can see how much they love it. The NIT was terrific evidence of that. We want them to feel guilty if they don't show up. So I think in the end, we're going to continue with all the good we have, and I think we're working hard to remove any of the not so good. And I'm excited to take the lead on that and take us forward to the next step of this university and move forward on other major decisions. With that, I'll open it to questions.
What is your biggest short-term challenge?
Staffing, I'd say just, one, you got a position you might have heard of, men's basketball coach, that needs to get filled. So I think that's the near-term need, is to resolve that situation. And then we do have, with the organizational changes, we have a few key positions there. And then obviously you look down the road to stadium expansion. There's other things, but I mean right away, we've got 3 positions that have been sitting idle in the university, the AD, the basketball coach, and president. We're going to resolve 2 of those this week.
And where are you with the basketball coach?
Yeah, I think today's less about that, Fred, on the process. I think we're right on track. I think I've been clear on trying to run this process, not knowing where I'd be, where if I need to do a handoff, if something were to happen and there was went a different direction, we'd be in position, but trying to make those, find out where we are and then be in position to make that hire if it's me.
Does today's announcement make it easier for you to hire someone?
Yes, it does. I think that, I said last week that I think this job is that great, and this community and university is that great that someone would come. The legacy for our basketball program, we have a few in here today that represent that, but I think it makes it easier when they know who they're going to be working with, for sure.
What about the rest of your coaches? Most hired under your predecessor, have you communicated with them, and do they intend and want to stay on your team, or do you want all of them to stay on your team?
Yeah, no, I think with the current coaching staff, I've been clear with them from day one. I went in and talked to them and I said, we'll earn each other's respect. It's a two-way street, and we spend a lot of time in those meetings. I'm more hands-on. That's probably one difference, is I dig in, I get to that lower level just from running businesses in the past. So I'm with them on a regular basis, whether it's Derek and rowing, it doesn't matter. Certainly Arthur and I communicate a lot while the NCAAs are going on. And then being in the locker room, being around the kids, a lot of them I'm familiar with. So I've gotten nothing but positive feedback, to be honest. You can certainly ask them. They're a good proxy for you.
Vince, I got a question, Vince.
Yes, Jerry.
40 years ago, I played here, and as a minority, when I look at you, I have one African-American head coach. And at this time, you're telling us that you like the makeup of your staff. When will it represent the players that are playing the sports?
I think the way I would look at it is we are going to hire the best coaches we can. But I think with that being said, I think my past and track record speak for my feelings about diversity and minorities in particular. And I think that if you go back and look, I look at positions, I certainly came through sports just like you, and certainly don't see colors, I see people and go through that. I think that's why some of my best friends in life are not white, they're not Caucasian, and I think that's why they're supporting me today in this role.
Because I just believe in earned opportunity. A young man goes out and earns the opportunity, he should be looked at like everyone else, but the proportion throughout the NCAA is not that. And I guess I'm one of the people one of the naysayers, but when we know the NCAA does not hire minorities at the correct rate, women or men, or African Americans, when is it going to change? People like you are taking the lead role. It has to change through you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would like to say it's going to be faster than it is. Unfortunately, it's a slower movement. But if you look even 5 years ago, even related to women, I think it was 8.7% of athletic directors were women. Now they're 11.2%. Move ahead 5 years. I think even when you get into minorities in that position, you run into similar, slower moving dynamics. And those are great percentage leaps, but in the overall whole, they're not as big as one would expect. And I do believe it will change here. I think you're going to see some more of that. I'm certainly a proponent of that. I think we could talk about mutual friends who I speak with that I'd like to see have more opportunities on that front.
What are you looking for in a basketball coach?
I think I said this the other day, Fred. I think that someone who really wants to be here and has a love and passion for this university can get in here and really appreciate the legacy, can relate to this community, and has all the virtues that represent our culture. And they're certainly going to be a winner. You wouldn't get into the finalist list. But I think that's really important to have a fit right now. And they need to understand what our expectations are as it relates to running a clean program as well.
Is there currently an offer out for a head coach right now?
No.
You mentioned Nike twice during your introductory conference. That's something of mine, or is the school broken away from this deal?
No, it's part of my past. When I was CEO of Broder, we were Nike's largest apparel customer on the golf side, so I spent a lot of time in Beaverton. That's where I think people wouldn't know my past in terms of athletics. I certainly get enough of that from people who like to write me, but there is a past.
There's a perception that you were the guy all along. You spent $150,000 on a search that identified you. Did you ever have any doubt that you would be this guy?
Yeah, I think there was always doubt, and that's why I wanted to provide freedom and for the university and for that search committee to make their choice. I certainly had to meet with Korn Ferry and go through my own interview process. I laid out, exactly like I would any other meeting. It was probably more bullet points than they expected in terms of coming in and talking, assessing where we are as a university as much as where we are as athletics, and how I feel like we need to move forward, and then specifically how I believe this role today, more than ever, needs to play a leadership role across the campus. And I feel like I've got a business background that helps that.
How much does this change your role in terms of the federal investigation and taking that forward, and is there any update on that?
Yeah, I think there's no change in my status in terms of dealing with it. If I'd been in the interim or the permanent, it would have been the same, and there's no update, and frankly, I'm not looking for one anytime soon.
Do you feel you have the monetary backing of the university that if it came down to a negotiation, you could hire the coach for the right amount of money?
Yes. Yeah, I'm comfortable in our ability to do that. I think I've gotten pretty clear on our financial position, our budget. I think I'm clear on what the market is for a job like this, but more importantly, what we would expect of the quality that is, it's not going to be minimum wage.
Do you feel certain urgency to hire a basketball coach? Do you feel an urgency to hire a basketball coach?
Well, it's a self-imposed deadline on myself. I think just from my experience in this, we're in the coaching carousel. I mean, we're going to see the ticker tape at the bottom of ESPN every day with changes. There's going to be people drop off, and it just creates a domino effect. You'll see it quite a bit. I think with the Final Four coming up, I do think it's important if you've ever been to a Final Four, for those of you who haven't, that's what a hotel lobby looks like, is it's a job fair. And that's where you're trying to figure out, we don't want to lose the opportunity if we need to get top quality assistants as much as a high quality head coach. It's important to have someone in that cardinal red to be potentially an in-studio to speak about why they love this university and what they see as the opportunity as much as for me.
Do you plan for your next coach to be in San Antonio then this weekend?
Yes.
You said last week there was no shortage of interest in the head men's basketball coaching job. How much has that been narrowed down?
Quite a bit, because I've been active around other responsibilities and in terms of thinking about working towards, okay, what are the terms and conditions you would accept? You certainly wouldn't take somebody into a finalist round if you didn't think you could meet their expectations or economic demands or terms and conditions. So I think that's the biggest thing. Is it would be the same way if I was recruiting a CEO for my old chairman role. Is you make sure they're there before you waste your energy.
What about your role in Southfield Capital?
Yeah.
Planning to sell your stake, or somebody's going to be doing that job for you? your private business? What is
Yeah,
that?
so Southfield Capital is a private investment firm based in Greenwich, have a number of partners in that. I've certainly weaned myself away from that. You can't totally unwind right away because of way a law firm or accounting firm and so forth, but that'll be a wind down situation. And Andy Levison, who is one of my best friends, is the founder of that firm, so that's in wind down.
With the timeline you gave with the Final Four and the coaches convention just a few days away, is Chris Mack a finalist for this job?
Yeah, I don't want to comment on any of the potential candidates at this time. I think it'd be awkward for all of them.
How many coaches are being considered?
Yeah, that's I don't want to address how many of those, Rick. I just tried to avoid the process. It's when I'd just say this, when you're dealing with the caliber of people that have interest in this job, it's not one you want to put at risk in their current situation.
Do you think the for-cause firings of Rick Pitino and Tom George makes it harder for you to negotiate with coaches, since they may question whether the university honors its contracts?
I haven't thought twice about it in that regard, Tim, as it relates to, I've been trying to think about how to work with our current board, and I've been, vocal about what I think would be proper terms and conditions related to a contract. I think the coach would have a better say in that, whether they say that's way off market or not.
And so you said good, some of the good and the not so good. What is some of the not so good that you need to clean up?
I don't know if you were around last September.
What have the conversations with the board been like as far as the coaching search?
With the board, that they've given me a lot of authority to think about that, but they obviously knew there was potential that it wouldn't be me if it came down out of the search committee. But I've been clear all along that if I need to do a handoff of my good deeds, that I would do that, and certainly try to make a transition for someone else had they been in this role and my stepping away. I think at this point I've kind of to the point about Southfield Capital, I mean, I've pretty much stepped away from my other life at this point, so it's either go into retirement or do this. And my thought was just hang around and help the university, even if it wasn't me, and stay in some supportive role.
If the timeline is San Antonio, it would assume the process is at least a little bit down the line. What needs to happen still before a coach is officially hired here?
Yeah, that'd be disclosing where I am, so I'll avoid that question.
Vince, are you happy with the terms of the deal? I know 5 years. Does that you feel like that's enough time, or is that kind of a template deal? How did that work?
Well, I think that's kind of standard. You see 5 and 7 years in ADs today, so it was. This is a light negotiation. I've certainly tried to provide the university with a lot of flexibility with regards to taking on this role. Certainly, that contract will be available for you guys at some point, but I wasn't trying to do it to a point to let it off. To cause issues with any other potential candidates. That's one thing I want to be cautious of. I'm just in a unique situation, personally, professionally, to talk about that, and I'm here to help. I mean, I came in here day one to help. But it's addictive, and I'm having a great time. So,
how have you seen the fan base heal in the time that you've been interim AD, and what do you hope to see in these next couple months?
Oh, I think fans walk up to you and apologize. Probably the best one, and I've even had it this weekend where they, I don't know who they are on Twitter, but they'll say like, "Look, I'm sorry, I said what I said." I don't. So I think maybe that's it. I just don't think it's a difficult situation. There's a lot of love for Tom, and for good reason. I think there's a lot of love for what we had going on here. We have had a great thing going on here for a long time, and I think just it happened so quickly, and it was abrupt, and I don't want to get into all the how that happened and what went down in the process, but we certainly got a disjointed fan base, and the only thing you can do is just earn their credibility back with good decisions and do what you think is right, and I've tried to do that, but probably with an extra bit of communication, transparency. I've tried to hit everything head on, but I think I noticed from just the personal cards that come in, or phone calls that come in, and emails. Kelly is my assistant somewhere around here, and she could answer for it as to how the tone has changed. But it didn't change in the first 60 days. I mean, it took a little bit of time to get going, and now I can feel the momentum in our program again and the excitement around this head coach. You guys certainly see it. You're out there more doing these social media and doing at events, and there's a lot of excitement around the program right now. And while we didn't get to participate in the NCAA, there was something special about what happened at NIT with our fans, and the players would tell you. I ran into Darius Perry today, walking through the parking lot, and You know, he's excited to hear what's going on, and I spoke to a couple parents over the weekend of players. There's excitement from that side of it. There's excitement from our fan side of it. Donors that maybe went to sleep for a little while until they figured out what was going to happen in this position. I get that. I haven't tried to really go after and pressure anybody to do what they're going to do. I've tried to get my hands around how to best run this department, and then think about the time that we really re-engage with some. But as I've said before, it takes time to heal for something like this. It doesn't happen overnight. There are cases that we've unfortunately seen at Miami and USC and Penn State and others that we've seen historically, and they heal, and we'll do the same.
Do you take into account sort of a unifying aspect of the next coach? Does that matter in the coaching search?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The next head coach has to have that ability, and if I didn't say it, I was remiss, because they have to have that ability to understand our legacy, understand our fan base. I'll send them films of the NIT, but also films of the North Carolina game where there's 20,000 plus in there going crazy. They're going to be hungry for success, and I think you know, with the players excited about the idea we would talk to high-level coaches. I think it helps in our own recruiting of them and be able to bring back a great base of talent to try to compete for a national championship next year.
Vince, do you understand the difficult road that's ahead of the men's basketball program with the lack of the ability to recruit? Does your new head coach that you spoke with understand that with the FBI investigation saying hands off, that there's going to be a 2 or 3 year window where it's going to be very hard and very difficult to recruit quality student athletes? What is your timetable?
Yeah, I think on that, you know, I've had the opportunity to meet with families and recruits as they come through, and they're high-level recruits. There's still a lot of interest. Some of the names you've seen thrown around in the past, they haven't all signed up, and we got time till the signing date to try to get them here. We certainly couldn't, we don't have enough scholarships for all of them, but I think in terms of our ability to get some of those kids to come this way, that's important. And then it's the weird nuance today, Jerry, that wasn't when you and I played, that there's fifth-year seniors out there that with this new rule that I'm certain we're going to see a attraction from that as much as the 18-year-old kids coming out of high school. And I think with the core base of talent we have, and certainly hanging on to these kids without trying to put my thumb on their names, but I've met with the kids, and I do think that we're going to have a terrific base of talent, and then just to augment that with 1 or 2 from high school, and maybe it's 1 or 2 from a fifth year to make this work through that period, but we're going to win.
Vince, do you feel confident you can get an extension done with Coach Walls?
Yes, I think just, you know, on that, I don't want to get too much into Jeff's situation, but he and I have certainly spoke about that. I think Jeff would tell you his comment still holds true. I want to retire here or be fired here, and he's going to retire here. So we're trying to get that extended out. I think there'll be more to come over the period of time. I'm probably more careful about not being a distraction during the tournament than he is. He's got high energy and he can focus like nobody else. But it's worthy of multitasking me on his behalf. But you know, we'll get that worked out with him. I'm confident of that. He's got a terrific staff beyond just him that I think is important for us to recognize, and we'll get that worked out. I'm confident in that.
In your 6 months since you've taken over, you've been very visible, and I know a lot of the coaches have talked about liking you having around and the athletes. Will you be able to do that moving forward full time and knowing what your schedule is and how you have to run this thing? Can you be that visible?
Yeah, they probably more than less, to be honest. I mean, I enjoy going to the games. We did it as a family anyway, so as most know, my own version of Sister Jean is my mom. And so we go to all these, we've been going to these games for all these sports and everything else. I mean, that's the biggest worry of my family is getting them tickets to events. It's funny, it's always been that way. But no, I mean, to be honest, Jody, I've spent an enormous amount of time, early hours and late hours on the administrative side of this. And then I try to be productive when the rest of the staff is around. So whether it's my weekends, and Kenny's the same way, who's here. I mean, we work weird hours to get things done so that during the day when we have the core of our group and they're here, we're really focused, we get stuff done. But games are, you know, I love it. I like being around, and you know, Lori was telling me to simmer down about a half dozen times I screamed at the game yesterday. I get a little excited about certain calls.
When we first met you and you talked to the public, you brought forth this phrase OLP, Operation Low Profile. That certainly isn't the case anymore.
No.
You've gone from, in 6 months, a committee member on the foundation, a relatively private citizen, to one of the university's top leaders trying to drive the ship through a storm. Can you kind of reconcile what's going through your head and your heart today?
Yeah, well, I think part of my heart's made my father. You know, I think part of my head is just, is this right for my family and as well? And just thinking through it is moving from a different role. I mean, as I've said before, I got to do a lot of my good deeds in business, whether in public companies or private companies outside the city and outside what people knew. I was, you know, it sounds weird, not that I enjoyed being the mystery man, but people just couldn't figure me out. Even my close friends, as to like, what in the world does he do? And when you're in the world of private equity, you're either really on, you're grinding literally 20-hour days for about a month to get a deal done, and then you could be chillaxed for a couple months sitting somewhere. And that's why I'd show up and I'd be around and look like I wasn't working or playing golf, and then I'm gone. And in this environment, it's a bit different, and a lot of that happened in private, but in this environment, it's different. I am out in front. If I didn't think I could add value and take this on, and if I didn't have the passion for the school and the sports and all that, I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have flipped that switch, because we were going the other way. We talked a lot about going the other way, and then this came about. And I was happy to be on the foundation. I really felt like I was enjoying it. I was enjoying doing the turnaround there and getting us in good order. And happy to see their success from here. I think that's another, as they say, leg of the stool that's in good order today. And I'd like to feel athletics is going that same path and helping the university on the third piece of that. But it's different for sure. Going to restaurants and so forth and taking pictures and selfies. And I guess I was probably a little naive to some of that. But I'm hopeful with this. And getting the head basketball coach, I can slip a little bit back into that, because the AD shouldn't be this visible. I mean, the reality is there's way too much focus around this role today, and being successful is not always being out front and cheerleading. I'd like to do that, but not have to be in press conferences on a regular basis. I'd just soon have our head basketball coach and all these coaches talk about their success rather than me have to talk about them having success.
So what's next today? Do you meet with your head coaches? Do you meet with candidates? Do you talk to the board? What are you going to do? Yeah, well, I think there's some follow-up that we'll do it, you know, kind of on a smaller level with the board today in terms of next steps there. You know, my hope would be to be in contact with really the basketball team's anxious to hear some of that, but I couldn't give them much while I'm in the interim spot. There's probably some time that needs to be carved out for them, and then right back on the recruiting aspect of that is trying to figure out where we go next in the head coach process. This 2-hour delay or so kind of mucked up my schedule today, so I'd have to reassess. Other questions?
Thank you all for being here today.
Thank
you. Dr. Postal for a couple minutes.